Welcome to the In-Between-Man podcast, where men can be men. It's true. You can be like Clint Eastwood too. So on this episode, we are going to be focusing on the what of our podcast, meaning what are we going to be talking about? And I've sort of put a stake in the ground and said we're going to be talking about why men are struggling today and the various components that are associated with that. I think it's good to get a wide understanding of the complexities that are associated with why men are struggling, right? Because some of them we have control over and some of them we don't. And understanding or having a good understanding of why all these changes have happened and how they have ultimately impacted men, in this case, in a negative way, helps you understand how you get out of it. You know what I mean? And we can maybe recreate a narrative, or worst case, maybe you as the individual can learn how to navigate complicated relationships, family dynamics, business dynamics in a way that it works best for you. And if I can help you do that, you will absolutely make my day. But I thought what I would do before we get started, what are we going to be talking about is why are men struggling today? And I thought it was applicable to at least define what struggle means. And if you're smart, you're an English major, and you already know the answer to this question, good for you. Merry Christmas. If you're not, I'm going to take just 2 minutes to explain to you the definition so that we have it out there, out in the open, so that we understand what struggle or struggling means, okay? And I didn't know this until I looked it up, which is the dictionary says the word struggle can be used as both a noun and a verb. Did you know that? If you didn't know that, then you've obviously learned something today, so congratulations. Okay, so the definition of the word struggle being used as a noun goes something like this: a forceful or violent effort to get free of restraint or a resisted attack. Another example is a determined effort under difficulties, a strenuous or laborious attempt to achieve something. Okay. The definition of the word struggle being used as a verb can be also defined as to make forceful or violent efforts to get free of restraints or constrictions, or to strive to achieve or attain something in the face of difficulty or resistance. And I think a determined effort under difficulties, a strenuous or laborious attempt to achieve something applies to our definition here, and to strive to achieve or attain something in the face of difficulty or resistance also applies here. And so the word struggle refers to making a strong effort, often in the face of difficulty or opposition, either physically or metaphorically. Okay? So in the context of why are men struggling today, I would like for you to look at it in the sense of, something has changed. You may not agree with what that change or even really fully understand that change. And then are you going to do anything about it personally? And can you do anything about it personally? Because there's some areas where this topic is so complex that it falls into areas that we don't have a lot of immediate control in. And let's talk about those areas. So there has been a lot of change in society that's affecting how men are struggling. There's been a lot of change in the cultural aspects surrounding us and what that all means. And obviously, or maybe not obviously, economical. And I believe that those three areas that I'm referring to are the hardest to change, but can be changed over time if we learn how to rewrite whatever the current narrative is that we don't like. And that takes time, it takes persistence and organization and all those things. Okay? So the fact that this is a complex issue is real. And so what I'm trying to convey here is that this isn't going to happen overnight, and it will take time. But in the meantime, while we're learning this, if you can take responsibility for your own actions, that's a win. And most men struggle with that for a lot of reasons. But let's get into a couple examples. 5 examples of what I was just recently talking about. So some of the key areas, and I'm going to point out 5 that are highlighted. Are areas that I think, need to show improvement with your help. And that starts with the educational, and let's just call it the workplace, or in this case, the economic dynamics. So boys and young men are falling behind in educational achievement compared to girls. This is a fact, with few men graduating from college and participating in the workplace than in previous generations. I know this is a fact because Richard Reeves has talked about it and he has data to back it up. I just can't reference it here because I don't know where I put it. The labor market has shifted towards valuing intellectual and interpersonal skills over physical strength in some areas, making traditional male roles less relevant and leaving some men feeling culturally redundant. That's also something that Richard Reeves has pointed out through research. And so if the economic market is valuing intellectual and interpersonal skills also, other than just being a man, then there's competition in the workplace that most men have never seen before or even experienced before, and may not even be compelled to go after it for whatever reasons. Then there's changing in the gender roles and even identity. You know more than anybody, identify with, whatever. But so there's been rapid progress in women's rights, and changing expectations have altered traditional gender dynamics, sometimes leaving men uncertain about their place in society. Now, is that something that you can change? Yeah, I think so. If you learn how, right? And we're going to talk about that. Men are still expected to be the primary breadwinners and protectors, but those roles are increasingly questioned and criticized, creating confusion and pressure. I've experienced that firsthand, and I've learned a lot about what not to do in those areas, and I'm happy to share all of that with you as we go forward. Expressions of traditional masculinity are often labeled as toxic, leading some men to feel their identity is under attack or devalued, right? So that is also very true. If a man acts out in a way that he's normally accustomed to acting out in, they're being told that they're toxic, and maybe that's the only way they know how to act out. And maybe it is in fact toxic, but being told that it's toxic when you don't believe that it is another dynamic that we can try to change, or at least get more educated about. So from a societal and cultural shifts, the rise of digital technology and social media has changed how men experience self-image and mental health, and I agree. As men struggle to adapt, some turn to online communities that are often simplistic or provide harmful answers, such as the manosphere, which can foster resentment and misogyny, which I do believe is true. And I do believe that a lot of men have isolated themselves in their house or in their surroundings and don't want to bother going outside, or don't want to bother going out to a bar and doing what they know that they could do at one time that they can't do now, which is also okay, and have to change. So they just go online and they find the Andrew Tates of the world, and they get polarized views and manipulated, and it's just terrible. I hate it. And that's one of the things I want to try to overcome with this podcast and the work that we're doing. Hey! Just got my spittoon. All right. Relationship and family pressures, which are also areas that you have some control in. Okay. Young men are increasingly disengaged from relationships. For example, a significant number of men under 30 do not have a romantic partner. Some of them don't even own a house. While women at the same age group are more likely to be in a relationship, often with an older man who's more established. Why is that? Why are women at the same age choosing to go with older men? I have my thoughts and opinions about it, but for right now, I'll keep it to myself. Financial stretch and pressure to succeed in a changing workplace can strain personal relationships and self-worth. 100%. 100% agree with that. When you think about the traditional male value system, which we're going to talk a lot about here in these upcoming episodes, men are valued based on what they provide. What they provide to a family, what they can provide to themselves, what they provide to others. And that's the barometer. You are labeled a success if you're driving around with a Lamborghini. Just how it is. You're labeled a success if you're living in an expensive neighborhood with a white picket fence and 2 golden retrievers, because you're living in an expensive neighborhood with a white picket fence and 2 golden retrievers. Mental health and social isolation, which is really the primary reason why I'm putting this podcast together. Men are disproportionately affected by mental health issues, which with much higher risks of suicide, drug overdose, and substance abuse. I think with the isolation and, an unwillingness to change, that's where men go. Social expectations for men to be stoic and emotionally resilient discourage them from seeking help, leading to hidden struggles and worsening crises. I couldn't agree with you more. We as men have not been brought up how to handle emotional trauma or any emotion. We've been told to suck it up and to don't be a pussy and stuff that shit. Don't show them your weakness. And I believe that to a certain extent that can be true, but because we've been told to stuff it, we have no tools on how to unstuff it, because we're not supposed to talk about it. It's too dangerous to talk about. It might mean that I'm vulnerable. And if I show weakness, I'm not as good of a man that I should be. And I'm telling you, that's all horseshit. So hopefully you can see just through, the last 10 minutes of explaining to you what is of the In-Between Man podcast, we have a lot to cover. And there are going to be topics that we discuss, and we are going to use some data that's already out there and existing. We're going to leverage experts like Scott Galloway and Richard Reeves and Chris Williamson. Dare I even say Lex Friedman, maybe take some looks at Joe Rogan. I mean, we're going to be talking about a lot of things, but a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about are going to be focused in these areas that we have control over versus areas that we have very little control over, and that over time can be changed if we're organized and well thought out to move the narrative. And that's the goal, right? That's the goal. I think I'll just probably leave it at that. There's some personal growth opportunities that you may want to consider, and I can help you in one area or it's definitely one area. I don't know about more, but I'm willing to lend my feedback. And this is a complex and robust issue. We'll the the State of American Men 2023 research study was done by Equimundo. We'll be talking about the 7 topics that are related to that survey, who they surveyed, how many people they surveyed. We'll talk about all that. We'll talk about what they found. We'll find out whether or not we think it's true or not, right? It's about understanding where we are today. And I think, I'll speak for myself, I feel like in some areas, especially areas like this, society jumped over me, and I didn't fully understand how all these changes would apply to me and how they would apply to me and what I needed to do to confront that and how I needed to either argue or disagree and what that all means. So before I close this thing out, there is a link in the description, which is an invite to our male-only private Discord server. There's going to be a link to our YouTube channel where I'll have all these episodes posted, but we'll go into that next week on the where. I have a TikTok account. I've set up a subreddit account as well, and I haven't decided whether or not I'm going to put the podcast on YouTube, but I also have rennickmorris.com as another place where you can go to learn a little bit more about me that you can check out. So check it all out. And if you don't want to leave a like, don't. If you don't want to share it with somebody, don't. If you don't want to be a subscriber, don't. I want to be working with people who are passionate about this topic and, are willing to dig in. So the choice is yours ultimately. And how this podcast evolves and changes and grows will also be up to you based on topics that we'll organize and discuss in our private Discord server. And we'll also have connections to areas where people maybe like to play video games, and it'll be kind of like that male garage that we have in our houses to just get away from everything inside. I hope it to be. But I want it to be positive and supportive. And I hope you do too. If you're looking for a polarizing group of men who are looking to drive a narrative down people's throats, this is not the place for you, because that's not what we're going to do. We're going to focus on ourselves, we're going to focus on the community, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So that's all I'll leave you with. Our next episode is going to be about where can you find all this information, and it won't be long. And I'll see you on the next one.